our land. Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build a nation together. Let we build a nation together. I say come, let we build a nation together.
I say come, let we build a nation together. I want to welcome you to this segment in the program where we will discuss. I am pressed again to play for you our beloved Prime Minister's presentation at the United Nations General Assembly because it was a very powerful presentation. But what is significant is the fact that the opposition leader, Emlyn Pear, was a couple days ago on a platform telling the Grenadian people that our beloved Prime Minister went to Venezuela. And with technology, with so many gadgets and devices that one could access information, it's kind of obvious. People will know because wherever the Prime Minister goes, in terms of out of state, they would issue a press release saying where he's going and for what purpose, what reason. That is what normally happens. So the press release came out that he is headed or going to the United Nations, like all other world leaders, to speak on behalf of Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. So people are now saying, but why would Emlyn Pear do such a thing? Why would she intentionally go on a platform and say those things when she knows that Grenadians are going to find out? They're going to know whether what she's saying is true or false. But I am convinced that the opposition, they have a plan to cause relationship that our country established over many, many years with other countries to be damaged, to be tainted, to be destroyed. I believe that is their intention, to see if they can strain relationships, destroy relationships that we have established with countries for all of these years. But if you're genuine, if you're sincere about Grenada, you should try to make sure that whatever you do would result in good for Grenada. It would bring fruits and not famine and not disaster and not problems, right? So the opposition, you must know that Grenadians are seeing through you. Your intention is obvious. You're seeking to destroy the kind of solid and good relationship that Grenada has with so many countries around the world in your quest for power. So you want to come back into power, but you want problems. You want sanctions to be imposed on Grenada. You want investments to be lost for Grenada. You want domestic issues too, right? You want problems and you don't care. You don't care about this piece of rock. and you would go all out to get that, which is sad, very, very sad. So I will play again for you our beloved Prime Minister's presentation at the United Nations, and then I will come back and talk some more about a number of things.
Home Affairs, Public Administration, Information and Disaster Management of Grenada. I request the protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Right.
Madam President, members of the Assembly, Excellencies, colleagues, and friends. It is my honor to address this Assembly on behalf of Grenada and as a member of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM. Madam President, I extend my heartfelt congratulations on your election as President of the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. We look forward to working with you under the guiding theme of Better Together and to supporting your efforts in advancing peace, sustainable development, and inclusive reform within the United Nations. We meet today in a time of paradox. The headlines tell us of division, instability, and conflict. Yet, never have human beings had such access to innovation, creativity, and opportunity. In one corner of the world, classrooms are reduced to rubble. In another, laboratories create breakthrough in science and technology that can transform our future. A paradox. In one hemisphere, children walk miles to fetch water from school. In another, children are using artificial intelligence in their lessons. A further paradox. The paradox defines our era. Progress and peril, innovation and instability, hope and hardship coexisting side by side. And so, Madam President, my remarks today are centered on the one force powerful enough to bind these contradictions together. The only force that can turn innovation into inclusion and conflict into cooperation. That force is education. That is a simple yet profound
right. Something is sticking there. All right. The recording something is.
Education is the single greatest social, economic, and creative equalizer that we possess. It transforms circumstances into possibility. It turns the child of a laborer into a leader, the daughter of a seamstress into a scientist, the son of a fisherman into an innovator. This is the heart of my message. Education is not a narrow path to employment. It is a broad road to resilience, to innovation, and to peace. And Madam President, it saves people, not just from economic poverty, but from the poverty of diminished possibility. And so education is a lifeline. I have seen this. I have lived this. And now I am privileged to lead this in and for my country. For me, education was a bridge from limitation to possibility. It was education that carried me from a small hillside village in St. David, Grenada, where my family fetched water from a public standpipe, to this assembly hall today. It was not wealth that brought me here. It was not privilege that brought me here. It was access. Access to teachers who believed in me. Access to opportunities that were modest but life-changing. Access to the chance to learn, even when the path was uncertain. But my story is not unique. It is echoed in the resilience of the Caribbean families who sacrifice for the children's schooling, in the ingenuity of students who make the most of scarce access and even scarcer resources, and in the determination of communities that rebuild schools year after every hurricane. That is the shared story of CARICOM, a story of people who learn to adapt, to innovate, and to persist, always with education as our anchor. And yet today, we must admit that the definition of education itself is changing. Education can no longer be defined solely by university lecture halls or college campuses. Around the world, young people are shaping their futures in new ways through technical training, vocational education, and digital skills. A certificate in coding can be as powerful as a law degree. A credential in renewable energy can open doors as wide as a medical license. A diploma in advanced manufacturing can transform not only an individual's life or future, but the economic trajectory of an entire community. This broader vision of education is the reality we are embracing in Grenada and across the Caribbean. In Grenada, we have embarked on transformative reforms to strengthen our education system and expand opportunities for all students at all levels. We have established universal secondary education and passed legislation to raise the mandatory school age to 18, ensuring that more of our young people remain engaged in formal education. Not as charity, but as a matter of justice and national survival. We have modernized school curricula to prepare our students for the future. Coding and technology clubs are now part of the school environment, and all students leaving primary school are assessed through electronic testing, prioritizing both digital literacy and problem-solving schools. We have placed student well-being at the heart of our reforms, hiring counselors, school feeding officers, and attendance officers to strengthen support for student mental health, nutrition, and engagement. We have also expanded our special education department and increased the number of early childhood officers, ensuring greater support for students with diverse learning needs. Because in a small island, every child's potential is a national asset. Additionally, and importantly, we have taken bold steps to make education more affordable and inclusive, eliminating school fees at the pre-primary, primary, and secondary levels. Free tuition is now also available at our two main technical and vocational institutions, widening access to post-secondary training and future skills development. Across the Caribbean community, we are investing in skills for the new economy, such as digital literacy, renewable energy, climate adaptation, and advanced technologies. In the case of advanced technologies, we are considering the teaching, understanding, and use of AI and AI-related skills to enhance education access, delivery, and outcome, as we understand that the jobs of tomorrow cannot be met with the skills of yesterday. And through the Caribbean Future Skills Fund, conceived with the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, we are pioneering an endowment model for education, where international contributions are matched by local investment. This ensures that our young people gain not just training, but also a sense of ownership and responsibility. It is education with skin in the game from both donors and recipients. This is not education as an abstract ideal. It is education as a lifeline, as resilience, preparing us to withstand the shocks of climate change and economic volatility. It is education as innovation, equipping us through powerful digital tools to turn necessity into opportunity. And it is education as sovereignty, ensuring that our destiny is not dictated by external forces, but shaped by the skills and creativity of our own people. And so when Grenada, Jamaica, or Dominica rebuilds a school after a hurricane, we are not just rebuilding classrooms. We are rebuilding futures. And so we need partnerships. Education thrives when ideas and systems are shared across borders. Partnerships build better schools, yes, but more importantly, they build better citizens of the world. For small states like mine, partnerships bring the reach and the resources we cannot muster alone. They open doors to technologies and opportunities beyond our shores. For larger states, partnership with us offers something equally valuable: lessons in adaptation and creativity, forged on the front lines of hurricanes, pandemics, and economic shocks. Together, these halves create something greater than either could achieve alone: an education system global in vision, but local in impact. And that is why today I call on donor countries, multilateral institutions, and the private sector not only to fund, but to co-create, not only to give, but to learn. Because education is not charity. It is collaboration. It is investment in the kind of world we wish to leave behind. But yet, there's conflict, instability, and the attack on education. So, Madam President, we must also speak honestly of the shadows that darken our world today. Wars rage, economies falter, communities fracture, and amid this turbulence, it is children who bear the heaviest burden. When a school is reduced to rubble, when a teacher is silenced, when a family is forced to flee in fear, education becomes the first casualty of the conflict. And when education is taken away, it is not only opportunity that dies, but hope itself. We know all too well what follows: ignorance that breeds division, exploitation that preys on vulnerability, extremism that fills the void, and the cycles of despair that pass from one generation to the next. A child deprived of learning today becomes an adult deprived of dignity tomorrow. And a society deprived of educated citizens becomes a society deprived of peace. And so this is why I say to this assembly today, protecting education in times of conflict must be treated as a pillar of peace building. Just as we rush to shelter the displaced and heal the wounded, we must also safeguard classrooms and teachers. Just as we protect hospitals, so too we must protect schools. Because whether that child is in Palestine, in Haiti, in Sudan, or in Ukraine, their right to learn is as sacred as the right to life itself. A child in Grenada, a child in Canada, or a child in Qatar deserve the same opportunity to unlock knowledge, to connect with teachers and peers, and to shape their future. An attack on education is an attack on all. A commitment to education is a promise we make for all. Madam President, today I urge this Assembly, regardless of history or grievance, to come to the table in a shared realization that no child's classroom should be traded for a battlefield, and no young mind should be collateral damage of political disputes. From Guyana and Venezuela to Belize and Guatemala, from Haiti's turmoil to the wars in Israel and Palestine, Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, we see conflicts that have as another casualty the education of children. All children, not the children of one side or another, but all children. And so I repeat, I urge all parties, regardless of history or grievance, to come to the table in a shared realization that no child's classroom should be traded for a battlefield, and no young mind should be collateral damage of political disputes. And so we must appreciate that dialogue is not weakness. It is, in fact, the highest form of courage. It is the choice to preserve learning, to preserve hope, and to preserve the possibility of peace. Grenada knows from experience that education thrives when nations stand in solidarity. Around the world, partners have trained our teachers, opened the doors of their universities, and strengthened our health and education systems. From the Republic of Cuba to the Kingdom of Morocco, from the People's Republic of China to the United Mexican States and beyond. Such partnerships have given thousands of our students opportunities in medicine, engineering, the sciences, and more, often offered in the spirit of friendship and even in times of difficulty. So it is regrettable that at a time when we should be expanding cooperation, restrictive measures and political divisions continue to weaken international collaboration and punish countries like Cuba that have sought to deliver the promise that education holds. Grenada hopes, for the sake of the Cuban people and for the good of our region, that greater steps will be taken towards Cuba's engagement in the economic and social life of our hemisphere. For small island states, every partnership in education and development is a lifeline. We cannot afford to see those lifelines severed by geopolitics. And so, Madam President, that is why I join my Caribbean colleagues in reaffirming our region as a zone of peace. This principle is not simply a diplomatic phrase. It is a pledge to our people, because conflict undermines development, and peace is the first investment in people. Other courageous champions of education have reminded us that classrooms must be defended even more fiercely than borders. Her Highness Sheikh Mahmouza bint Nasser has echoed the sentiments that in times of war, and I quote, "The right to education should be defended just as we defend the right to food and shelter," unquote. The children of Palestine deserve that right to education. They too deserve the right to a future. Gordon Brown, Rasta Machel, Kalish Satir, and Malaya Yousafzai have carried the same conviction onto the global stage, that protecting learning is protecting humanity's future. Education cannot wait for the end of conflict. It must be safeguarded in spite of it. Governments, international organizations, civil society, and the private sector must become partners in this defense. We must work together to rebuild schools and create systems that are resilient enough to withstand war and disasters. Partnership can be the difference between a child picking up a book and a child picking up a gun, between hope and hopelessness. And so my global call to action, the numbers speak for themselves. Each additional year of schooling raises a person's earnings by an average of 10%. If every child in low-income countries left school with basic reading skills, 171 million people could be lifted out of poverty. If all girls completed secondary school, child marriage would fall by 2/3, and maternal deaths would drop by almost half. And if every adult worldwide had just 2 more years of education, global GDP would grow by trillions of dollars annually. These numbers show that education does not just change the fortunes of individuals, it changes the fortunes of nations. It shapes economies, democracies, and peace itself. But let me be clear. In this era, technology and education without ethics is not enough. We must also teach our young people how to think critically, act ethically, and live responsibly in digital spaces. Education must prepare not only workers for jobs, but also active and responsible citizens. Not only coders of software, but also stewards of truth. Not only innovators of technology, but also guardians of humanity. Because we live in an age where misinformation travels faster than facts, and where algorithms can divide as easily as they can connect. In such a world, education must equip the next generation with the wisdom to discern, the courage to question, and the empathy to choose what is right. So let us imagine then a different world. A world where a child at a standpipe in St. David, Grenada, has the same access to knowledge as a child in New York or Tokyo. A world where a child in the rubble of Port-au-Prince can log on to a digital classroom and continue learning despite the chaos around them. A world where a child in a refugee camp, stateless but not hopeless, can study, dream, and prepare for a future beyond the fences that confine them. That vision is within our reach, but it will not come by chance. It will come by the choices we make here together in this assembly and in the partnership we embrace moving forward. And so in concluding, Madam President, colleagues and friends, education is not only a policy, it is a promise. A promise that no matter the size of a nation, the color of a passport, or the weight of a child's circumstances, that the door to opportunity remains open. For Grenada and the Caribbean community, education is the antidote to ignorance, the pathway to resilience, and the seed of innovation. It is how we turn survival into sovereignty. It is how we transform vulnerability into vision. And so I urge this assembly, let us protect our classrooms as fiercely as we protect our borders. Let us value our teachers as highly as we value treaties. And let us treat education not as a privilege for a few, but as a right for all. Because when we safeguard education, we are safeguarding peace. When we democratize knowledge, we democratize hope. And when we give a child or Port-au-Prince, Haiti, or Gaza, Palestine, or in a refugee camp anywhere, the tools to learn. We give humanity itself the tools to endure. So let us resolve together that no classroom, no student, and no country will be left behind. Let us believe that together, that resilience is not just surviving the storms of our time, but building a world where education ensures we thrive beyond them. Thank you, Madam President.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure and Physical Development, Public Utilities, Civil Aviation and Transportation, and Minister for National Security, Home Affairs, Public Administration, Information and Disaster Management of Grenada.
Right.
The
So,
Assembly.
folks, you heard it there. The Most Honorable Deacon Mitchell presenting at the United Nations. That is what you call a leader with vision, a visionary leader, a very intelligent leader. The applause says it all. And if you listen to his message was one of hope, one of opportunity, one of Grenada moving forward. And don't matter what side you're on politically, you must feel proud of the Most Honorable Deacon Mitchell and the way he leads this country when he is on the international stage, the way he operates, the way he's received also. Grenada is back. And you know, while our beloved Prime Minister was out there delivering on behalf of Grenada, we heard the opposition leader, Emlyn Pay, making these allegations.
To travel the world. While sectors in this country are struggling to survive, to make ends meet, our Prime Minister continues to create reasons to leave this country. Brothers and sisters, one of the recent reasons given to us is that he's going to Venezuela to negotiate between the Venezuelan government and the U.S. government. Brothers and sisters, I say to you, this must be another PR stunt from a Prime Minister that doesn't seem to care about what is happening here in Grenada. Because I say to you, while he leaves this country to mind the business of Venezuela and the U.S., brothers and sisters, ministers of his cabinet are losing their visa and he cannot do anything about it. Brothers and sisters, while he leaves Grenada to go to Venezuela to meddle in the business of Venezuela and the U.S., fishermen are being slapped with a ban that threatens their very survival in this country. Local producers, small businesses are on a ban and they cannot send their produce to the U.S. through the Grenada Postal Corporation. But our Prime Minister finds himself trying to solve the problem between Venezuela and the United States of America. I say to him, play with Trump. Go ahead and play with Trump. Brothers and sisters, businesses in this country are forced to pay additional costs because of the services increase through the imposition of tariff on manufacturers, so that when the goods arrive in Grenada, the cost goes up for local businesses and consumers. But he's gone to Venezuela. He can't deal with that.
Right, so that's the difference. This woman, couple days before our beloved Prime Minister went to the United Nations General Assembly, right? She was on a platform in St. Paul's, in this area where I live, right? Up this end. And she was saying these things, all these lies, all this misinformation. And she says it with so much confidence. She says it with so much, bravery, as though it's true, when it's not. So this woman was actually saying that our beloved Prime Minister went to Venezuela, when he went to New York, when he went to the United States of America on government's business, on our business. Boy, I tell you, with technology, this thing is easy to know. But she does it anyway. She does those things because that's her nature. She lies bold-facedly, for a want of a better word here. She's brazen. And her supporters are clapping on, not understanding that this woman was being disingenuous. And as I say to people, if the truth sees Emlyn Pear, the truth will not recognize her. She's a stranger of the truth. And we are seeing that every single day. But she wants to lead Grenada. She wants to become Prime Minister one day. But you're not even there yet. And you're telling all those lies. It says a lot about her character. It says a lot about the individual. But she's a woman of the cloth. She's a big church goer or a church woman. And politics is making her, revealing her true nature. Right? I think that's the better statement here. Politics is revealing the true Emlyn Pear. And I'm happy that we are able to expose her so that everyone can see through the individual. It's sad. It is very, very, very sad. And that lie is so obvious, so easy to red flag and say, Emlyn, you lie. You damn lie. Right? And she knows that Trump has imposed tariff on nearly all countries around the world. And she knows that small Caribbean countries or islands and small African countries, they were slapped with a 10% tariff. It's like a tax, right? 10%. But everything that you import, so that the goods that you import from the United States, so any goods that come through the United States will attract that 10% VAT. So when they speak about cost of living, they know what is driving the cost of goods up. They know that 10% tariff imposed by the United States will drive the cost of goods coming from the United States up. But still, they go on their platform and they talk about cost of living this and cost of living that. But she knows that we can't do anything about it because the goods are not produced here. They're produced in the United States, or they go through the United States, and once it comes to Grenada and it hits the shelves, they attract the 10%. Most of those basic food items, the government of Grenada doesn't collect any taxes on it. Most of the basic food items, because they are zero rated. They do not attract VAT. They don't have VAT on them. Many of them, many items, the basic items. But no, she goes on a platform and she says all kinds of stuff to fool her supporters. But I say to her, we are in 2025. People are smarter. People have access to information. We are living in the day and age of AI, artificial intelligence. If I want to know something, all I need to do is to go in one of those apps, DeepSeek, DeepSync, or ChatGPT, or what, one of them, and enter the information. And within no time, it gives you a whole rundown information that you would have to take days to go through. Pages upon pages upon pages of information. So it's not hard to get that kind of information. So you go on a platform, you tell lies. What you hoping to achieve? What is your ultimate goal? That's the real question here. If you love this country, you would not go on a platform and do those things. You would not. You would tell the truth. And being a person who goes to church, being a woman of the cloth, and I want to assume that she preaches, I want to believe she would go on the pulpit and say things, right? Like preach. But she's on a platform publicly telling all these lies. And she goes to church the Sunday or the next Sunday and speaking. I want to assume that she speaks in tongues and she jump all about the place and jump up and thing. I want to assume so. In the church, the kind of thing that they do, some of them. They fake that they have the spirit and the power and the whatever. But I am convinced that Emlyn Pay is worse than Keith Mitchell. Emlyn Pay is worse than Keith Mitchell. I mean, Keith Mitchell bad, but Emlyn Pay worse. But I'm happy we're able to expose her. Because don't tell me you're going to go on a platform and say those things and believe that we're not going to expose you to technology. And it says a lot about the individual, her knowledge, her intelligence. I don't think she understands technology well. I don't think she understands what time she's living in. We're going to get the information and we're going to put it out there. So our Grenadian brothers and sisters can listen and can make their own judgment. So you lose credibility every time that you go on a platform and tell all of these lies, because it's easy to find out whether you're lying or whether you're telling the truth. So I am so happy that we are able to expose her. And look, I listened also to Nolene Thompson. She's the caretaker for the NNP in St. David. And she came across to be a very angry person, a very bitter person. And my little advice to her and others who fly in this flag that it's woman time now and that kind of thing, my advice to her, stop being angry. Stop being arrogant. Stop being so bitter, because you're coming across bitter and angry. There's no need for that. If you go in the community and you see something or somebody come to you and tell you something, it would be good if you can get the facts. Get the facts first. Because we are now understanding what you put out there, it is far from the truth. It is far from the truth. So sometimes it's good to get all sides of the story. Don't just go out there and be angry and bitter and your tone, your gesticulation, your everything. It came across with bad taste. But that's the NNP. The NNP is an angry bunch of men and women. They're angry. Angry at what? They're angry because they lost power. They had it all, and they thought that they were untouchable. They thought that, they would be there forever. But the Grenadian people gave them a blow at the polls, and they were shocked. And they still shocked up to today. But stop being angry. Stop being bitter. Stop being sour. You're not going to get anywhere with that. The Grenadian people are smart enough, wise enough to choose. And that is what they did on election day. And come the next election, it will be like a movie. If you believe the blows you got in the last election was that bad, you're going to get it worse. It will be worse come the next election. Because Grenadians are fed up with the NNP. They're fed up. They don't want NNP back. And you go wrong and you get it from people. They don't want the NNP back in power. So, folks, I want to wish you all the best. I want to encourage you to stay focused. We have a good prime minister. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We have the best leader, the most honorable Deacon Mitchell and his team in power. They're working diligently. They're working with a plan to transform this place, to make it better for all of us. And let us support them. Let us defend them always. Take good care. Have a wonderful day, and I'll be back with you tonight in the hub starting